It's Friday afternoon, everyone. Welcome into the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live this Friday, and it's a wonderful Friday to be here in the tavern. Welcome, everyone. Come on in. It's nice and warm. The fire is going. Ryan's behind the bar. He's going to be taking care of the drinks. Everything all right there behind the bar?
It's great back here. Yes, it's good to be here today.
Got your hat on and everything?
Nice warm hat.
Yeah. So there's plenty warm. You really don't need to wear a hat in here, but he's wearing his hat because I think his hair's messed up. Anyway, also helping us from way on the other side of the time vortex, Aaron is on the console.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Aaron, for taking care of all that wonderful technology stuff, which of course here in the 18th century we just don't do. I mean, we tunnel through so that you can see us, but other than that, we're here with pens, paper, like life ought to be. None of those fancy
doohickeys. And
that's a pad of paper that Ryan's looking at there.
Yes.
So anyway, today we've had a good week. We were out shooting cooking episodes yesterday, and that was fun. It's been a little while since I was in the kitchen, so it's nice to get back in the kitchen. Had a lot of fun with that recipe. Of course, Ryan had his Cullis episode up, and apparently it was just really, really good.
Oh yeah, incredible.
When Ryan comes back and he's just like, that was the best thing ever, then it must have been pretty darn good.
Shot a video with Brandon. I'm losing track of the days.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a Brandon episode coming up.
Yep.
There's a John episode coming up. Lots of fun stuff in the hopper coming out on YouTube very soon. Yeah. And we are catching up and getting to Townsends Plus material. Finally, we had to take a little bit of a break here in early January, but we are ready to get back on the Townsends Plus thing. And we do have coming up on Friday a special Trades and Sciences Diderot's Encyclopedia episode coming up on Townsends Plus live. So if you're a Townsends Plus person, make sure to check that out. You will get a notification about 24 hours before, and then when it goes live. So
on Friday?
Watch for that.
You mean Monday?
Monday.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Monday.
Yeah, Monday is a special Townsends Plus live stream.
Yep. And I'm going to be spending the weekend, working hard, digging deep, and doing my reads for the Benjamin Franklin Autobiography. We're gonna really start getting into that. Hopefully, I don't know. Do we have a time scheduled to start on that? I think next week we could do one if we're
Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Okay. So I think that's what we're gonna try. We're gonna try sometime in next week, maybe Wednesday, Thursday. We'll see what the rest of our schedule's doing, but we'll be starting to live stream the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. I'll be reading through that. We'll be pulling out the wonderful tidbits, and it's chock full of content that is really great to grab into. It's like here he is talking about something that we wouldn't expect them talking about in the 18th century. All kinds of fun stuff.
If you haven't grabbed your copy of that,
Yep.
you should go to the website and see if you can find. Aaron, can you pull a link?
Just threw a link in there.
Wonderful.
Right?
People are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Link is in the chat. Also, people are loving the Cullis video.
Good.
Dude.
Excellent.
That was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to research and a lot of fun to make.
Yeah.
And don't worry, the ham bits did not go to waste. We would never do that.
Oh, no, of course not.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you dig in on one of those. It seems like, is this a no-brainer kind of a piece of content? And then you actually make it like the recipe, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is more than I expected it to be. So I'm glad that you had time to dig in and actually do the Cullis instead of just, you read about it. It's like, this just looks like gravy or something, right?
There is a question right here. The Cullis used ham. Was that for fat, or it could just easily use beef? Also, what was done with the leftover material for straining? Okay, so the leftover material was this ham and mushroom mix that had all those spices, and it's really delicious. And I took it home and I ate it with my family, and it was wonderful. And the ham, if you were going to switch over to beef, you would need to add a lot more salt. The ham inherently has salt in it, and beef needs a lot of salt. So if you're going to do that, just experiment with it and let us know how it works. I'm not sure. I'm sure that it did add some more fat too, but you could probably get away with it. If you try it, let us know.
Yeah, ham pulls in a good bit more umami than your typical
true.
beef does. So
Yeah, you'd
I
have
think
to
it really
maybe do more mushrooms.
gives it a punch that you want, that you wouldn't get from beef. Yep, definitely. Okay, are we ready to jump into the topic? Do you have anything you want to cover before we get going, Ryan?
No, I think that we're good to go.
So today's topic is one that Lauren was working on the slides for, the images for, and it's woodworking. And I've been thinking about the topic itself because of the Townsends Plus live stream that I'm working on. It's going to be kind of heavy in mills and work like that. And I was thinking about how much everything that we have today, we'll discard, modern plastics. The buildings we build things out of, our vehicles, all the things that we think of modern life are really mostly, they're like metal, sometimes there's ceramic or concrete kind of construction. We've got lots of glass, we've got lots of these really, sort of easy to manipulate metals, especially the difference between not just making things of iron, but today they're made out of steel, which is totally different than just straight iron. But in the 18th century, all these things, large and small, that we might make today, machinery, a mill, something like that, they were made out of wood. I mean, even their steam engines, in a lot of cases, were, they'd make the cylinders out of wood instead of, they weren't really steam engines, they were atmosphere engines, but close enough, right? They were making all these things out of wood, which we just don't do today. We'll make stick houses out of wood, but that really isn't even carpentry in the 18th century sense, because today we just take straight pieces of wood and, jam them full of screws and nails. And really the metal, the screws and the nails are doing all the real work. All that's left are these just straight pieces of wood, which aren't really working. But in the 18th century, they were making all these structures, especially things like ships. We can see that all those wood pieces are cut and kind of mortise and tendon together. They had all these great joints that held the wood together that didn't rely on nails and screws and whatnot. So woodworking and what's going on with it is really important for making giant ships, which we would never try to do out of wood today, except if we were using lots and lots of metal components and glue. They were making giant buildings out of wood. They were making machines, huge, giant machines out of wood, which it just doesn't calculate to anybody in the 18th century, or in the 21st century. But let's jump in, start looking at these images of carpentry and woodworking in our 18th century time period. We start off with a couple of woodworker shop images here, and this one's very early. Let me see. I've got the paperwork here. This is 1640s and Netherlands, and Carpenter shop. And if we looked at a carpenter shop today, we would have giant power tools. Everything, of course, is a hand tool here. I don't think most carpenter shops today you're going to have an axe hanging around as one of your standard tools that you pick up on everything. But we learned when we were doing the cabin that axes are just amazing carpentry tools, especially if you use them like giant chisels and some other kinds of ways, depending on what you're using. Axes are super handy. And of course, in a 17th century, 18th century context, axes are going to be, you're going to have something like that laying around all the time. And here we have our main center, craftsman here. He's got his axe out. He's working on a beam section here that's under his foot. And we've got, all the tools on the backdrop here. We've got a plane, we've got a square, we've got another plane, a sort of a T-handled reamer, and which is something you'd probably use a little bit more for working on wheels. We've got chisels, we've got a brace and bit, another axe hanging on the wall. Really love this foreground bottom left. We've got a saw that just has a sort of a straight handle. So we got a little hand saw there. There's one like it in our collection that we use for sawing on things. We've got dividers, really important dividers. Of course, we remembered the dividers that they used in the three-legged stool episode. We've got our main carpenter here, along with his typical protective clothing, and then we even have the guy in the background planing. You imagine, hand sawing different planks. We're going to see images of that later on. And then as soon as the plank is done, we've sawn the plank. Now we have to go and attack it with a plane and get it all smoothed out. I mean, today, if we want to do some woodworking, we go to the lumberyard, we buy this perfectly measured, planed. Everything's, even when it's a crummy board, it's still great compared to something you would get in the 18th century. In the 18th century, every single board has to be hand flattened and worked on, and they're not huge, long, giant pieces, but usually a little bit smaller.
Can you see what's happening with the floor there? Because he's using an axe on that log on the floor, and I'm just kind of wondering what the floor is made of.
Well, the floor is made out of wood, so that even if he misses it,
gotcha.
It's not going to be, digging into dirt or whatnot. And you could, you might see a floor like this, and it would be, brick or flagstone or even dirt, and that would really mess up your tools. I am surprised he doesn't have it up on a block.
Yeah, that's what I was
or
thinking.
something else. But maybe he isn't the smartest tool in the chest there.
And it could have been that artist not getting the concept too.
Exactly. Or he had a prop under and he's like, I don't know, it just doesn't look right in the picture, so I'll leave it out. Here is an image of 17th century German tools in Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I love all the care that is taken of how they made these tools. So today our tools are made they're made mass-produced, and they generally are extremely utilitarian and with any kind of lack of decoration whatsoever. Yet here in the 18th century, tools are much rarer, they cost a lot more, and every one of them has something that's, elegant design or extra decoration on it. Why did they take all this extra time to decorate their tools? Well, they were already expensive. I don't know. I think it's a question of just the style or taste of different, industrial design of every single tool, and different eras just have a different feel. And today, those would all be, fairly, if they were decorated at all, they would be very, very simple decoration. But here we got these amazing pieces. There's a little vise here on the extreme left-hand side. I am not sure about the next little straight piece there. It might be sort of like a rule or a straight edge. I think that's what's going on there. Got that interesting knife object that's up next. We got lots of dividers, another little small vise in the center. Got a saw down at the bottom, which is in the woodworking tools, although we will see a saws almost exactly like this, which they would use for surgery. And we have planes, different styles of just gorgeously carved planes on the right-hand side. A couple more woodworkers, and there are lots of different tools that we will use, and people that specialize in different sorts of objects being made out of wood. These are two wood turners here, and both of them are using pole lathes, just like the pole lathe episode that we did. It was like the summer before last?
Summer 2020.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Summer 2020. Here you go. When we did the pole lathe episode. Pole lathes are fascinating, fun to use. They can be a little frustrating because the tool doesn't, or the piece doesn't get up to very high speeds, and you have to be really careful about how you're doing it. But the turning shop both of these images are very, very telling for exactly what's going on. We can see how simplistic the equipment is that they're using. We get to see all the chisels and some of the work that gets done. So that spinning wheel that we see in the foreground on the left-hand side, that is full of turned pieces. All the different, legs and the uprights and the spindles on the wheel, and even the parts that hold the wheel up into place are all turned pieces. The chair there's full of wood turnings. We even see things on the back wall, items that have been turned by the wood turner here. The other one we don't, the one on the right here, we don't see as much of the finished product, but we do see some of the finished product sort of laying around, even some wood that's waiting to be used. And boy, picking out the right piece of wood is enough of a challenge right there. It's like, if you're gonna turn green things, you have to turn them and know that they're gonna shrink and you don't want them to crack. And there's a lot of knowledge that you have to have, not just of turning the piece itself, but what's the right piece of wood to pick out to turn that when I get done, it isn't just gonna go to ruin, because that happens so much. Things will crack in the wrong way, and then it's like, well, what was the point of making it?
Do you mind if I cover some questions?
Jump in.
All right, wonderful. So these are in the chat. Did most churches have woodworking done during the 18th century?
Churches.
Yes.
Everything, all the large structures, and they're going to have lots of woodworking in them, even if they're a mostly masonry sort of structure made out of, stones or bricks or whatever. All the windows and a lot of other kinds of work are, you just have to have amazing wood pieces done in them.
I'm wondering if they mean ornate woodworking for designs and stuff. Do you see that a lot in churches in the time period?
Sure, and it really depends on whether it's high church, low church. In that situation, I mean, we have a lot of different kinds of church, places that are cathedral-like and just amazing, and then sometimes we have very low church situations where they have very simplistic buildings, and of course then we don't have nearly as much of the, super extravagant woodwork.
Somebody was asking, this might be hard to answer, well, what was the most common joinery method for furniture in the time period?
Well, we will see some typical furniture joinery that will come up in some later images, and if you want some of the detail on that, there are images in Diderot's encyclopedia that where gets down and breaks, sort of gives us an exploded view of different sorts of furniture. So if you kind of specialize in understanding how those things go together, you can get some great kind of detail about how furniture and whatnot is put together in that time period. But it is fascinating to being able to get, and furniture gets a lot of stress to it. It's one thing to build a thing and it's like, okay, it's got all these perfect joints and I'm just going to set it over there in the corner. It doesn't have this active dynamic stress happening to it. Furniture, people are sitting on it, they're scooting, they're rocking back, and it's very hard on furniture. So the joints, and usually it's fairly light, furniture is fairly light items. So being able to put those things together so that they stay together and not fall apart is pretty interesting engineering.
And then this is going to be regional, but what types of wood were most commonly used?
What wood is being used is, the study of the species of wood and what to do with it is a study in and of itself, and it can be very fascinating. There are certain woods that are very, very particular for real specific uses. Some things is like, well, this kind of wood is useless for almost anything except this one thing that it works really good at. So there are trees, or there are particular wood species that work really good as wedges to use for splitting other kinds of wood. And there are other things that will make a terrible wedge. They just would smush up and not work, but it would work great for something else. So ash can be a really good wood that is hard and works, but does a little bit of bending. Whereas oak is it's very strong, but it's also brittle. It doesn't bend very much. So in a lot of furniture situations, you don't want to use oak in a particular circumstance because it'll likely just crack and break, where you would use ash in that particular spot and it would work great. Especially in the mill situation where you've got gears and teeth of gears made out of wood, you got to use very, very specific kind of wood, or else the teeth will just break off. They'll be brittle and they won't work at all.
Timothy's in Super Chat. Which published edition of Benjamin Franklin Autobiography are you reading from?
This is the one that we've printed specifically, and it is a version from 1906. So that's this particular one. I wanted one that didn't have the strange 18th century F's for S's and all that good stuff. So this is a version done by Houghton Mifflin in 1906 that we have reprinted.
Ashley LeCount in Super Chat. It's good to be back in the tavern with you all today. I love today's topic.
Thank you.
Timothy again. Hey everyone, hit the like, thumbs up. Hey, appreciate that, Timothy. Thank you.
Yes.
Good idea.
What a great idea.
We like to try to hit that 1,000, so
Yeah, we got some work to do.
yeah.
Do it, though.
Rose is in Super Chat. A tip for the busy barkeep, who I hope will be able to check his PM very soon.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
well, thank you very much. Nick B. Hey, John, I drove to your store from Cleveland 2 weeks ago. I bought a bunch of different items and even used some to decorate my home office.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Sounds like fun.
Sue O'Connor's in Super Chat. My birthday is Monday. Be 60 if I don't freeze first.
Happy birthday, Sue. Hopefully you won't freeze.
We have a
Is it?
Super Chat from Sean, and it is without a comment, so thank you very much for that. And I've missed one somewhere. Here it is. From MD Smith 702. Thanks for all of the great content. Enjoying Ryan's recent cooking episodes. Great work.
Yes, very good work.
Thanks.
Ryan.
That's it. We're caught up.
Okay, we can jump back in. Here is a close-up. This, you can go ahead and jump out to me for just a second here, Aaron. That image that we just saw, that's from Moxon's Mechanical Exercises book. I wanted to point this one out. This is brand new in the Townsends reprint collection, and this is Mechanical Exercises, Doctrine of Handiworks. This is from 1703, so it's very early in the 18th century time period, and it covers smithing, so blacksmithing, joinery, carpentry, wood turning, and bricklaying. All those are in this particular book, and it's got some great images. You can go ahead and jump back.
I just put that book in the
Thank
chat
you.
too.
Thank you. Very good. So this is one of the images, and it's not chock full of images, but it does have some good images and lots of explanatory text. So they will take an image like this and break it down, put the letters in there, and then it'll start to explain what's going on with it. And if you saw the turning episode that we did, the pole lathe episode, this is almost exactly the pole lathe that we made. Our uprights, they didn't have the stand part because they were just poles in the ground, but we have the two rails along either side. We have the puppets that go between the rails, and then the screw part that turns on to the two pike points, and then the item itself gets put on with the string. We don't see the item in this particular image that's actually being turned. There's the tool rest that's right up there by the pikes, and then even at the bottom we can see how they did a special kind of thing with two different sticks that hold the string, so that you can adjust those and get them to work for you just right as you're standing there with 1 foot off the ground running the treadle and trying to turn this item on the lathe, which, let me tell you, it takes some coordination to make this. Now, this is the simplest of the wood lathes. So later on, they'll show you a wood lathe that has like a big wheel that somebody else would turn. That makes it a lot easier, and the item is always turning the same direction instead of going forward and backward. And even a section that talks about turning things that aren't perfectly cylindrical. So what happens when you want to turn something that's oblong or out of off center? So it has a lot of description in the turning section. Yeah, so here's our lathe. Our lathe with a big wheel on it that you would have an assistant do the work on. So they'd be cranking on that wheel, which, hey, it might be tiring, but it isn't that bad. And it makes it much faster, and you can be a lot more precise with your wood turning when something else is doing all the work. You can go a lot faster. So when you've got a big wheel like that and a tiny part that you're spinning, you can really bring the RPMs up and get a much finer grain, much easier to work. We get to see some of the tools up above there. There's the probably, I believe, that center very top piece is sharpening. Probably talking about sharpening your tools, which they have to be just super sharp, or else you're just wasting your time. And then that little side piece looks like they have a little spindle there. So there are times when the piece you're turning, you need to have an extra little spindle to, to put the string around so that it will turn the piece itself, because you can't put the string on the piece that you're turning, or else you don't have any space to do any work on it. So that's what's showing you there. But there's lots of wood turning in this one. Oh, I love this image. Let's see. Let me find the date on this one. This artist is early 18th century, so late 17th century, early 17th century. This is from the Netherlands, and we've got our woodworker. He looks like a happy woodworker. I have never seen anybody that's been able to put a brace and bit in their hat before, so I thought that was a great image. He's got his big set of dividers there. We've got a nice picture of his leather work apron, and he's in his working clothes. Again, it's a full sleeved jacket. He probably even seems like he's got a waistcoat on underneath that. He's got on a simple piece of neckwear, so it's very, very common. Everybody's wearing something around their neck. It's like part of your duty as a person to have some sort of neckwear. So he's got his little neckerchief there, and he's got a typical soft working hat of a craftsman in that time period. This is the kind of thing he's wearing, not when he's going to town and doing other kind of business, but this is his working outfit. And we get to see a setup of someone doing work outside. And it's not untypical for different craftsmen to have ways to work right outside of their shop, because you want to be able to see what you're doing. You're working during the daytime most of the time, and so you might basically bring your whole entire workshop just right out front and do your work right out there, basically on the sidewalk. And we get to see the tools that he's got here. We have the saw, and they're sawing through a great block of wood, making planks. Maybe they're 2.5 foot long, and it looks like they're fairly thick planks. They're not making deal boards, really thin boards, but fairly thick planks there. We see mallets and axes. We have the saw, again, that sort of single stab saw with a simplistic handle on it there in the foreground. We get to see tools that are up high, so they're hanging his brace and bit. It is, as a carpenter, you've got to certainly be careful of your tools. You want to keep them sharp. And so, even I'm sure at times the artist did things with the tools, whereas the the carpenter would look at that, say the plane that's down there on the very, very bottom left-hand corner, and say, I would never set my plane down like that on the ground, because of course you will dull the blade. Why is it sitting there on the ground? You'd at least have it on its side, or you leave it in the box. But at least up here on that top corner, the brace and bit, it's hanging up out of the way. It's not sitting on the ground where you'd step on it, or it would get dull. We have tools all around it. We see the workman, and he's got a helper, and obviously it's a pretty rough workman looking here. Again, this is a Dutch image from 1689. This woodworker, we can see his handiwork in the background. So he is working on spars for ships. So you need lots and lots of poles. So you need different sorts of spars for your sails. You need different sorts of, even the paddles or oars here that's on the person's arm behind him. This man, that's what he's doing. So he's got a special set of tools just for that. He's got this kind of fancy draw knife that's just kind of a swoopy design. And he's got a pole that's sticking up out of the ground with a couple different holes in it. And he probably is wedging that with his hip, right? So he sticks that through a long hole in that upright post in the ground. And then he can kind of lean against it, and that holds it in place. And then he can work it with his draw knife. So instead of having a, sort of a sit down draw horse style like you've seen in some of the episodes that we've done, since he's working sort of upright green work here, he has a different sort of work style operation.
All right, let's do some questions real quick if that's okay. This is from Adam in the chat. I'm looking to buy a shirt from your website, but what is Osnaburg?
What is Osnaburg? Osnaburg is a, there's some right over there. Osnaburg, it's all right here. Osnaburg is a more coarsely woven cotton fabric. So this is like our standard muslin. So it's very, very fine, like sheet material. So,
you probably can't see my apron, but I'm wearing Osnaburg.
There you go. So Osnaburg is more coarsely woven, and it's an off-white fabric that has little slubs, and it's a much more homespun looking style of fabric. They're kind of emulating the look of linen from the 18th century. We sell linen also, but it's something that if you want a coarse workman kind of shirt, that fabric that would look like something that they would weave at home, that's the kind of material that you're looking for.
All right, and somebody else was asking about your hat. You can find all of these things on townsends.us.
Yeah, head over to townsends.us and just put hats in the tricorn hat in the search bar, and you'll get lots of answers for that one.
Extra Cool says, happy Frosty Friday to the purveyors of the patrons of the tavern.
It was cold this morning. I think I got in my buggy and it was 11 degrees.
Sean Kerner is back in the super chat. I forgot my comment. I've casually enjoyed your content for about a year now. Are there any projects you are looking forward to this year?
I'm looking forward to just getting caught up. But yeah, we've got a whole list of great projects that I want to work on. And we're going to be getting back into the homestead. Really want to get to some pottery projects this year. I had that on my list last year, and it just didn't happen. One of the bigger projects will be making a wheel like they had in the 18th century. It's easy enough to get a wheel here in the 21st century, but if we want one that looks like something they used in the time period, that is like, not looks like, but is like they used in the 18th century, then you can dig into Diderot's encyclopedia, get some ideas, and then make some wheels, do some pottery pieces, as well as multiple kind of digging into further into the projects on the homestead, using the blacksmith shop, using the wood shop. So it'll be a lot of fun. And usually those kinds of things, they all hook together. So, it's like, oh, we want to make a wheel. Well, then we're going to need to do woodworking, we're going to need to work in the blacksmith shop, and all those things kind of hook together. That's why we have those sort of workstations set up in the first place. If you can't do a little blacksmithing, well then you can't get this job done.
M Matrix S, I guess. What kind of methods were used to season wood? Did early mills work wet or dried timber?
Yeah, so you want to work wood in a couple of different phases, and certain things you want to do very green. So it's very easy to do certain things when the wood is green right after you cut down the tree, and there are other things that you have to wait for it to season and dry out and get sort of really nice before you can work with it. And you will work in both stages. So something like the wood turner, well, he's going to cut down a tree, he's going to cut it into particular size chunks, particular kinds of wood. It's like, well, I want to use elm because it won't split when it's drying, or there are some things that work really good like that and other ones that don't. Maybe I want to use because it's something fairly narrow, I can turn it out of poplar and it'll dry and it'll be just fine. And then you'll kind of prep a piece of wood. It's like, okay, I cut this to basically its rough size. Now I'm going to set it aside in the shade on the north side of the building with a bunch of other wood, and that'll sit there for 6 months or 5 years. There are different pieces of wood they use on wheels. And it's like, oh, that one's got to set for 5 years. So you got to think, it's like, if I want to make a wheel 5 years into the future, I need to set the wood aside now. Or know someone who has already set the wood aside so I can go buy it from them, just so I can make the wheel so that it is properly seasoned before I start to attack it. So there's a lot to not only just knowing which wood, but how to prepare it for use.
Davey is in Super Chat. If there was one meal from the 18th century we should cook at home, what would it be?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
One meal
Meal.
that they should cook at home.
Boy, you guys know how to throw a wrench in the works.
What was the number of cooking videos we agreed on the other day that we've done? Close to 400?
Yeah. Again, I mean, when you've done like 400 episodes, how do you pick one out and say, this is the one, I don't know how to answer that. Well, we'll think about that.
D.A. Riley is in Super Chat. We hope to come down to see your store someday. We're just not that far from where you are in Michigan. Lisa F. in Super Chat. A tip for Lauren. Thank you for all the great pictures she finds for the tavern. Happy Friday. Roger Holt in Super Chat. How about a video on how to properly shaft an axe?
For that one, check out that axe handle episode we did with Brandon not that long ago. Aaron will put a link up for you.
Yep.
And that was one that wasn't, that was just more sort of visual. They had a great fun doing that episode. It wasn't so much a talkie, but just to watch that one happen. And handling items it can be an art, and it can be really fussy and fun. I think it's great when you get done. I've handled several different things, and usually when you get done, it's just like, well, okay, that handle turned out different than I expected it. It's kind of like each one's a carved piece of art by the time you get done with it, and you hope it never breaks because you don't want to have to do it again.
Amy Petty is in Super Chat. Was there major innovation in 18th century woodworking? Styles or techniques, significant advancements over the time from previous, or within the 18th century?
Well, we even saw in last week's episode that we did on gold. There was the gold, it had a gold finish on it. I don't know if it was gold leaf or whatever. The Chippendale chair. And there is just utterly amazing pieces of beautiful furniture made in our 18th century time period. And they were using essentially the same tools that had been there for 200 and 300 and 500 years before. They were doing things that are hard to believe with a simple set of hand tools. I don't know what to tell you about the technical innovation there, other than the painstaking craftsmanship that is, which is just utter carefulness. And wood is a tricky item to work with. If you're working with aluminum, steel, you can get right down to the 10,000th. That doesn't work that way with wood. It's a completely different monster. And to get everything to work together, and again on furniture, which has all that dynamic stress on it, it's truly amazing.
Roger Holtz in Super Chat, and he really wants you guys to pound that like button, folks. And then we've got one more from Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
So exciting.
Profile picture and everything. It's really him.
Wow.
And it's like a brown blob with hard eyes screaming.
I think he's making the Michael Jackson
Yeah.
screech, probably.
Probably saying, well, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Please.
You almost heard my falsetto. And that catches us up. Do you have Patreon people to
I
talk
do.
about?
Let's do. Since we're here about the halfway marker. Oh gosh, passed it already.
Yeah,
John's got to be a little quicker on the uptake here with these images. Brand new Patreon people this week: Robert Kaler, Matthew Bucklas, and Wes Irvin. And in PayPal, some people just kind of give us a one bump there on PayPal, and Christopher Ford is there again. Thank you, Christopher Ford. And then we have brand new people on Townsends Plus. Welcome to Townsends Plus. Elizabeth G, Christopher C, Nancy F, Hugh T, Sherry B, Christopher H, Wendy K, Martha S, Chuck H, and Susan A. Excuse me. Thank you, all you wonderful folks that are supporting us that way, and that is just this total, a kind of a foundational support as we make content that shows up not only on Townsends Plus, but here on YouTube. It takes that foundation set of people so that we know it's like, oh, no matter what we do, even if YouTube decides we don't like this thing, that we can make this and people are going to support us in it. So thank you so much for that.
Aaron Howard just sent a super chat that says, what's the status on the calendar? What I can say about the calendar is that it's working and it's coming. And, right now there are supply issues and there are other things that are slowing it down, but it's coming.
Yeah, we ran into that paper shortage thing, and wow, what is going on? Anyway, check back with us in a short bit of time, and we will have calendars available for order, and they can go out with catalogs and all that good stuff.
Oh, another super chat just popped in. This is the last one for now, guys. John Talley. Oh, another one just popped. John Talley. Coin for Ryan. Ryan, I love your cooking episodes. Was it different for you to get in front of the camera in that way, or was it just another day at the office? Can you talk about how you approach that? I'm not used to these questions. No, it was different in the fact that I had to be in front of the camera. It wasn't so different in the fact that I'm fairly involved with recipes as they come along. Sometimes John takes one and sometimes I take one, and we'll kind of work on them. And it was fun. So thank you for enjoying it and supporting it. Appreciate that.
And Ryan's used to being up on this stage in front of people and stuff, so I don't think it bugged you too much jumping in.
No, I don't think so. It's a little weird to look at a camera lens, but I don't look at it very often. So D.A. Riley sent in a rhinoceros, or is that a hippopotamus, Aaron?
Yeah. That's a hippo.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. It's an excited hippo. Chanting. Well, I can't tell what it's chanting.
Get up.
Get up.
Get go. What the?
Get gup?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Easy to read. Good. Excellent.
Got time for a couple more, I think.
Couple.
Are you ready?
Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it. Another woodworker.
Next.
Yeah, we get to see, this is a bit more of in the building trades, And we've got people working in the background. We've got the scaffolding. It looks very safe. I'm sure OSHA would not have any problem with that. He's working on a short beam here, probably sort of posted beam thing going on tenon on one side, and he's got his big mallet and a just giant chisel to chisel in another hole here. Again, it's just totally different. Again, when we think about putting together woodwork for a building, it's not a bunch of 2x4s that we just cut them to length and butt them up against each other and just put a giant nail in it. No, everything's got to toe together and interlock like a puzzle piece. We get to see again one of those typical stab saws. Hand saws down at the bottom, a chisel. We got different kinds of wood that they're using all around the scaffolding and whatnot, large frames. I believe this is out of Moxon's again, the mechanical exercises, and we see multiple different kinds of saws. Some saws that are meant to be used for planks and for logs themselves. We got lots of different planes and planing wood. Carpenter in the time period that did planing is going to have just an assortment of long planes, short planes, skinny planes, planes that have particular edges on them so that you can rabbet edges and all that kind of fun stuff. So a lot of different sorts of tools like that. Multiple different saws and squares and brace and bit here. And we even get to see the workbench on the top with the special little sort of L-shaped hunk of steel that goes in the hole that you hold the pieces of wood down with. You got your mallet there. You put the plank you're working on, and you sort of wedge it in place onto the bench so that you can work on a particular board. Even the axe, of course, you got to have the axe. And just underneath the axe, that's a saw set. So it's a piece of steel with these little notches cut in it, and then you would use that to grab the individual teeth on the saw and set them left and right, so that your saw can bite as it goes through the wood. Now, it's hard to imagine cutting boards, giant wooden planks. And here we have a pit saw. The person in the bottom isn't in a pit in this case, but they've put the giant block of wood up on these huge sawhorses, and then they're pulling that saw back and forth, and they have to do it very carefully. It's an art to make sure that your plank is nice and straight and you don't get really thin on one side. And of course, whoever's on the bottom has sawdust in their eyes the whole time. This is 1711, the image there. And yes, I want to do some pit sawing, but I don't know. Finding the saw is the trick these days. So here we have a carpenter who is pointing to the drill in his hand, and he has a nice long brace and bit there. One of the very important tools. He's got a nice long hand saw there on the ground. Again, I don't think I would set my saw on the ground, but hammer over there. His workbench that's right behind him, and again, he is working outside where he can see what's going on. And here's, what is this letter here? It says, this is the mayor of New York, and he's complaining about carpenters refusing to work without a license from the mayor, and he's requesting that the mayor give permission for this person to do work here. I'm fitting out some transports, and he's got trying to get these guys to get the work done. We've got this carpenter with a saw, and you can see behind him on that with the saw, there's sort of like a little sawhorse kind of a thing. Now he's probably doing something like as simple as firewood pieces. So you'd set the little log into that holder, and then you'd use your buck saw. So that saw's got a wide blade. It's only just meant to cut off, not shape things, not like you would use like a bandsaw. And then on the ground right behind his feet, that's a little backpack, and you'd stack the pieces of wood on that and carry them around town and sell them.
All right, we gotta get back to these super chats.
Uh-oh.
And then I think we gotta sign off. Nick B, I would love to see a video on how they use to transport ice. Perhaps you guys could even try a few different methods out for yourself and see which one is most efficient.
Usually ice is packed up in wagons with lots of straw or sawdust around it in our time period. I don't know how else you would do it. I mean, what you gonna do?
Robert Holt says, still waiting for the canoe trip.
Oh, aren't we all? You know, we could get out there. What do you say, tomorrow?
Nathan Devins, yeah, we'll crack the ice to put the canoes in.
Then we can use the canoes to haul the ice.
Hey, 2 for 1. Nathan Devins says, I also wait upon the canoe trip. Thanks for your vids.
Thank you.
Thank you for being patient with us about those. We really want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, baby, do we. It's going to be fun.
I'm excited about canoe trips.
I am too.
He's not being sarcastic.
Oh,
really.
does it sound like I am? I'm not trying to. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm really excited about them. It's just we have to make it happen.
Oh yeah.
That sets us up for the end.
You got to start the fire in the canoe and cook fish in the water in the canoe.
Well, and we even have an idea, and it might not happen, so don't hold me to this, but we know a person who owns an island on a river, and we'd love to Tom Sawyer that island.
Oh yeah.
So it'd be awesome.
Yeah. And hopefully not when there's a flash flood and wash us away.
Right. Okay, so did we get through too much of this to finish it next week? Could we do that?
I'd have to check and see how many are left.
We're on slide 15 and we go to 21. Let's go really fast.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, we got these wonderful tools. We put the dates there. 17th century tools. Love the level there, top center. Love those. Just, who's gonna put I don't know, there's a lion's head on your, man, that's just cool. I want my woodworking tools today made as neat as these are. We got another letter, and this is a list of 10 carpenters who have entered into the Continental Service under Captain Robert Burns, with the order for the captains to leave these men at the place to be employed under the engineer. So instead of dragging these guys away, it's like, oh, these men are qualified. Leave them, don't give them a musket, make them go out marching. Instead, we've got other things for them to work on. This is a carpenter's scribe. So a measuring device, not only a measuring device, but also a marking device. So it's like, oh, I would need to cut a board exactly 3 inches wide. I'm gonna stop this at 3 inches and then scrape it down the log, and then boom, down the board, and I've got our mark. I can saw it now. And we have our other really nice image of a man carrying a carpenter's servant, carrying tools. He's got buckle shoes. He's got this big apron on. He's got a double-breasted short jacket. Just love the outfit. Sometimes I wear a double-breasted short jacket right here, and we get to see the saw there and other tools sticking out of that great long basket. So instead of a long toolbox, he's got a long tool basket that he's hauling these items in. There we go. We got a couple gentlemen out there. I have never seen anybody cut logs backwards like that before. I thought this is a great image. He's got a long saw that he is stepping on, and then he's holding the upper part maybe against his chest. Can't quite see what's going on with the very top of it. And then he's pressing down and sawing. That's a technique I'm going to have to try out. Something a little new. And we also see the other gentleman here. He's bundling up a set of sticks. This is 1808, and these guys are collecting wood to burn. So it doesn't have to be anything super fancy here, but wood to use in your kitchen. Oh gosh, don't you love this woodworking shop image? 1813. Again, a nice big open spot. They've got lots of big, those are expensive windows. All those panes of glass, that's expensive. So, you know, these are all, although you can see they're bullseye glass, so they're the very center. That's the cheapest piece of glass because it's most warbly. But all they want is a light. They don't need to necessarily see out. You can see they have a nice big open door, probably because they work on large pieces of furniture. You gotta have a big door to go in and out. And we have lots of tools scattered around, saws, workbenches, all tools up on the wall to make sure they stay right. Love this image.
Yeah.
We even have a brick wall in the background and something, probably a heating device over there so that you can dry out particular things if you want to. Yes, that's William Henry Hunt. No, that's John Hill, 1850. This is William Henry Hunt. And this is another carpenter out working. Again, he's working outside so we can see what he's doing. We can see there's even a little cooking kettle there. I'm not sure what's going on with that, whether he's soaking things or whatnot. A little sawhorse, his axe, and then he's got his workbench that he's working on. It's up underneath a roof, so it's protected. It's always sitting there. You can see the big screw there so that it's got a vise on the edge of his workbench so he can clamp his wood down onto his board is there, and then he can, you know, plane it and get it all nice and flat. You can see, almost get a feel for all the wood shavings and everything around his feet. 1715, or 1850, sorry. Another pit saw technique, and wow, check out the boards. Again, we saw the one, they were working on this nice square, perfectly square giant plank, but this, they're just working on these logs, and each one of them has a nice live edge to them, which is a big thing nowadays, but you know, in the time period, you just take that whole log up there. You might hew it flat, like that other one we saw, so that all the boards start out flat, or in this case, they're sawing them natural edge, and then they'll probably sell those individual planks, and depending on what you're making, you would fix the edge up. And this guy is working down in a pit. And there we are.
All
we
right.
did it. We got through it.
Last two super chats. Roger Holt says, coin for everyone. Y'all do a great job. And Adriana P, I got the Nutmeg Tavern mug for Christmas. It's great.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying your Nutmeg Tavern mug. Don't know if you got a cool blue one, but it doesn't matter. They're all neat. Is that it, Ryan?
Say goodbye.
That's it.
I was like, and nothing. Woo! Well, I finished up my wonderful cordial, and still a little tea left. That's all right. A wonderful Friday here in the Nutmeg Tavern. Again, if you're a Townsends Plus person, make sure to check out, mark your calendar for Monday at 4 and check out the site there, and you will get an email. Amazing support and wonderful connection for what we do here on the channel. You guys come in and make sure that we have lots of fun in the live stream. We couldn't do it without you. Of course, watching those videos, commenting and sharing those videos is so kind of you to do. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but you guys decide that you want to watch our videos, and so that makes you special, let me tell you. Thank you, Ryan, for all your hard work this week and today behind the bar, and thank you, Aaron, on the other side of the time vortex. Thank you folks out there, especially Patreon people, PayPal, and Townsends Plus, and Super Chat. Yes, I know you're there. Thank you so much. Hope you have a tremendous weekend, and thanks for watching today.